Okay, so we're diving deep today into this Love to Visit Italy newsletter. You know, the one you sent over. Forget the usual tourist traps. We're after those real hidden gems.
Sounds intriguing. It's going to make me want to hop on a plane right now.
Let's just say, keep your passport handy. They kick things off with a region even I wasn't too familiar with, Valle d'Aosta.
Uh,
It's a stone's throw from Milan, like 2 hours, but feels like a different world. Gorgeous and a great jumping off point for, other adventures.
what's interesting is they present it almost as a strategic base camp, not just a destination itself, like a cheat code to the best of Italy almost. And that thing about some of Italy's most beautiful villages being there recently, that's got to mean something.
Oh, totally. It's like they're saying everyone else is headed to Rome, but you're in the know, straight to Valle d'Aosta. And speaking of in the know, it feels like more and more travelers want those unique finds, the less crowded spots, right?
Definitely. It's a shift from just ticking off landmarks to really immersing yourself. Valle d'Aosta plays into that perfectly, connecting with the culture, not just observing it from afar.
Like, yeah, having a cappuccino in Times Square versus savoring one in a quiet piazza, watching the world go by. Speaking of scenery, though, the newsletter mentions this panorama of Valferret near Courmayeur. Picture the Italian Alps right there.
And that's a whole different traveler, right? Not your art history buff or city person, someone who wants that nature, maybe hiking, skiing, that kind of thing.
So I'm curious, which vibe speaks more to you? The mountains or something else entirely? Now, if it's off the beaten path you want, they rave about Puglia, southern Italy, supposedly a haven from the tourist hordes.
Puglia is something else. Imagine the map of Italy, right? Puglia is right there in the heel of the boot. And because it's been kind of overlooked, it's got this raw authenticity that's getting rare. Charming villages, olive groves, that classic postcard perfect water.
Okay, you sold me. Puglia's on the list now. Speaking of picturesque, they included this amazing drone shot, Polignano a Mare, perched right on the Adriatic cliffs. They call it the most famous beach in southern Italy, and honestly, looking at the photo, I get it.
There's just something about a visual, isn't there? Sparks more wanderlust than words sometimes. Like a glimpse into the soul of a place.
Totally. And speaking of glimpses, did you see the part about the ancient bathhouse unearthed in Sicily? That stuff just gives me chills thinking about all that history.
What's wild is how Italy's history isn't just behind glass in a museum. It's alive, constantly being revealed. That bathhouse, that's not just some random ruins. It's a direct link to the Roman times, their daily life, even their humor. You can find traces of it.
Makes you want to hop on a plane and start digging, doesn't it? Uncover those stories, put the pieces together. And what better way to refuel after a day of that than with some amazing Italian food?
Now we're talking. They highlight this video, Pasta Grannies, with this adorable Nonna, Ada, making eggplant and ham lasagna. Looks incredible. And of course, got to mention the regional differences in Italian food.
Oh, for sure. It's like each region has its own language of food, tells a story.
Mm.
Ada's lasagna with that eggplant and ham, that's probably specific to her region, passed down.
Exactly. It's more than ingredients. It's the stories behind them, the connection to the land, the heritage.
It makes you realize experiencing Italy isn't just the sights. It's savoring those differences, tasting the history, maybe even trying your hand at pasta making with a real pasta granny. That'd be something else.
That would be incredible, wouldn't it? Taking home more than just a suitcase full of souvenirs.
Speaking of souvenirs, they end the newsletter with this really interesting suggestion, exploring those small towns and villages, the prettiest ones in Italy. Like they're saying, okay, we've given you a taste, but there's a whole world out there.
And that's what's so great about Italy. You can keep discovering. Just when you think you've seen it all, bam, some charming little village tucked away in the hills, like time is stood still.
Reading that last line, it made me wonder what kind of hidden gem would really speak to you? What calls to your inner traveler?
That's the question, isn't it? Me, I always go back to history. The places where you can just feel the centuries.
I totally get that. Walking through ancient ruins, picturing the lives lived there, it's magical. Although that sun-drenched beach in Puglia is pretty tempting too, gotta say.
Why not both? That's the beauty of Italy. One day you're in Roman times, the next you're wandering through vineyards.
It's like you create your own tapestry, right? Each thread, a different piece of Italian culture, the history, the landscape. And when we were talking about Valle d'Aosta as a base, it got me thinking. We approach travel like a checklist sometimes, but what if we were more mindful?
I love that. Not a race, but a chance to savor. Pick a region, like Valle d'Aosta. Really delve into it.
Yeah, like choosing a chapter in a book, not skimming to the end, but getting lost in the details, the hidden alleyways, local festivals, maybe even learning some Italian from the shopkeeper, right?
Those are the memories that stick. The little moments, the connections, the things that change your perspective.
It reminds me of this time I was in the south of France actually, headed to Nice, but something told me to like take the scenic route.
Oh, yeah, I get that. When the universe tells you to slow down, you listen.
Right. And I'm so glad I did. This village wasn't even on the map, but it was magical. The locals, they just welcomed me in, sharing all these stories, traditions. One of my favorite travel memories, honestly.
You see, that's the thing about letting go of the itinerary. The real treasures, they find you.
Mm.
You just got to be open to being surprised. Maybe a little challenged, even, but in a good way.
It's like the best souvenirs aren't things, they're those moments, the stories you bring home, the connections, the way you see things differently.
Exactly. A suitcase full of memories, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And a head full of new ideas.
So, thinking about your Italian adventure, what kind of traveler will you be? The one seeking out the hidden corners, or maybe soaking it all in at a slower pace in some charming town.
However you do it, just go with curiosity. Be open and don't be afraid of a little spontaneity. That's where the magic happens after all.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Another deep dive done and dusted. Hope we've sparked some ideas for your Italian adventures. Remember, slow and meaningful, that's the key. Until next time, happy travels, everyone.